All right. So, hello viewers. Today, the guest who have joined the podcast is one of world's leading time management coach. In fact, according to the survey of Global Gurus, he is the world's number one time management coach and helping millions of people to get through their time management issues. Right. So, welcome, Carl Pullein, sir, on our show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And Carl, sir, I would like to ask you about your recent book. You have written a book called Your Time, Your Way. So please tell us something about your book so that the viewers can understand the theme of that book.
Yes, well, the book is designed to help people to take back control of their time.
Right.
So since the massive digital revolution that happened around about 2010-ish, with many people, not all, but many people have just completely lost control of time because there's just so much coming at us through those little devices called mobile phones and laptops and tablets and everything else. And the book is really about showing people that you can live a digital life, but at the same time have still retain control of your time. The important things, establishing what the important things in life are, having, maybe 45 minutes to an hour in the morning just dedicated to you, and being able to organize your day so that you are allocating sufficient time for all the stuff that's coming at us, your messages, emails, all the work our bosses are asking us to do. Just knowing that you've got enough time to deal with that stuff and have a social and family life, which is critical these days.
Right. And sir, I would like to ask you one very, pretty dominant question, which is a lot of people are going through that can you explain some technique like Pomodoro technique and actually how it helps us and how it boosts our productivity?
Well, Pomodoro Technique works if you have ADHD or ADD or something like that, because it keeps you focused. And every 25 minutes, you get a 5-minute break. And every 2 sessions, you get a 10-15 minute break. I prefer to be a little bit more flexible. And one of the biggest things anyone could do, and they can start this immediately, essentially from Monday, is find 2 hours, and not like 30 minutes here and 30 minutes there. It's like 2 solid hours that you protect on your calendar for doing the critical work that needs to be done that day. It's just 2 hours. Now, I often find people will say, no, I can't. I've got to be available for my clients. I've got to be available for my boss. And that's the sign of somebody who's completely lost control of their time, because you're allowing other people to dictate your day, which is never, ever good. All you're looking for is 2 hours. And for most people, that probably could be, say, between 9 and 11, but it could be between 1 and 3. It could be between 10 and 12. It doesn't matter when. What really matters is you've got 2 hours every day where possible, though that's not always possible. But even if you could get 3 days where on your calendar 2 hours are protected, that's going to give you 6 hours of focused work, which is what most people are really struggling to find time for. Now, if you think about it, 2 hours in one day, still, if you work a typical 8-hour day, that still leaves you hours available for your boss, your clients, and everyone else. And unless you're working in an emergency room in a hospital, or you're a paramedic, or you're a criminal lawyer, barrister, as we'd say in the UK, it's incredibly unlikely that anyone is going to get upset if you're not available for just 2 hours a day. And I think if more people did that, they would soon find that most of their work is getting done. Not all of it, of course, but you're not building those huge backlogs that's just stressing you out, draining you. And then once you're drained, your whole productivity slows down anyway. So it being available all the time is never a good strategy.
Carl, sir, you have shared a very practical thing, and I would like to know about what is time blocking and how it is distinct from Pomodoro technique.
Well, I think it's probably better to start with saying what time blocking is not, which is blocking every minute of your day for different activities. That's not time blocking. That doesn't work, and that's just being micromanaging your day. And all it would take is one meeting, one unexpected phone call, and the whole day is destroyed. So that kind does not work. Time blocking is looking in your calendar, preferably for a whole week, and saying, I need this amount of time to do this critical work. And then plotting that time in your calendar before the week begins, so nobody can steal it from you. And I work for myself. I'm self-employed, but I have many clients. I get about 150 to 200 emails a day. But I know I need about 10 hours a week to create my content, and I need about an hour a day to deal with communications. So if you think of that as 15 hours out of the week that I need to protect to get my work done. But if I'm working, I don't actually, because being self-employed, I'm probably working 60 to 80 hours a week, but that's just choice. I enjoy my work. But even if you're working a 40-hour week, 15 hours a week, it's not even half the week that you're spending focused on deep work. So that means you're available for a large proportion of your week for everybody else, but it does protect the time for you to get the key important work done. So that's what time blocking is like not blocking out every minute of the day. It's just finding, as I say, that 2 hours and maybe an hour later in the day for dealing with communication. And if you can do that, you'll find that you're not overwhelmed, you're not stressed, and you don't have thousands of emails waiting for a reply.
Right. Carl said, I was watching your video, and actually, you have made a video about how to be more productive in our life, right? So, what are your, practical advices you wanna suggest us that these are the four important and crucial pillars if someone wants to be, productive and get their things done effectively and efficiently.
Well, I cover this in the book in more detail, but again, to give you an overview, the first thing is to really establish what's important to you. It's what I call the areas of focus, your areas of focus. Now, we all share 8 areas of focus relating to like family and relationships, your career, finances, health and fitness, lifestyle, life experiences, stuff like that. That's really important to all of us, but what they mean to us will be different for each of us. We all have different family, we all have different financial goals, we all have different careers. That's the first thing, is start with yourself. Because once you know what you want, that gives you the clarity on where you want to go with your career, where you want to go with your relationships, where you want to go with your lifestyle, your health and fitness and stuff. Once you get into the workplace, the first thing I would always tell people, or always ask with my coaching clients, which is, what is your core work? What are you actually employed to do? Now, a salesperson, for example, is employed to sell. So any work that may involve selling something is your core work. So that would include prospecting. It would include following up with potential clients. It might even include sending out proposals, whatever your particular role is. But anything to do with selling is going to be your core work. Filling out sales activity reports for your boss is not core work. Sure, your boss might shout at you demanding where is it, but it won't help you sell. It might keep your boss happy, but it won't help you sell. Sure, you may need to do that at some point in the week, but your priority each day will be on activities that rely on selling. If you're a teacher, you're employed to teach. So preparing for your classes, very important. Being in the classroom on time is very important. So that's your core work. So establishing what your core work is one of the critical things if you want to become more productive, because too much time is wasted on non-core activities,
Right.
which means that nothing is important is really getting done. And then the two other things I would say is plan the week ahead. I mean, everybody in this, in productivity and time management will tell you, you need a plan for the week. Now, it doesn't need to be detailed. You don't need to spend hours and hours on a Sunday planning out the week. Really, a weekly planning is just saying, okay, what are the most important things that need to be done next week? And write them down somewhere. Now, you can do it digitally or on paper. It doesn't really matter. But making sure that wherever you put that list, it's in front of you every day, so you don't lose sight of what is important. And then on a daily basis, you pick 2 things that are the most important things. I call them my must-dos. So the must-dos must be done, even if you have to work late into the night. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen too often, but that's how critical they are. They are your must-dos. Now, if you can get those 4 things done, so start with your areas of focus. What is your core work? Make sure you're planning the week, and just establish what are my 2 critical must-do tasks today, and make sure they get done. You will start to see a huge improvement in your productivity.
And Carl said, very practical thing actually. You have elaborated in very simple words that these are some of the things which we can incorporate in our life to become more efficient and effective. So there is a graph which says urgent, not urgent, important, unimportant. So not urgent, but it is important. So what is your insight upon this? I mean, this graph and how to incorporate it in our life.
Well, we call that the Eisenhower matrix. It comes from President Eisenhower, who, if you're the president of the United States, you have a very, very big inbox. But what he'd established was there's four boxes eventually: urgent and important, not urgent but important,
Right.
and urgent, not important, not urgent, not important. So that one, that not urgent, not important, is scrolling social media, watching
Mm,
TV, Netflix, whatever it is you're watching that Korean drama. All that is not urgent, not important, and you want to be eliminating as much of that as you possibly can, but not necessarily everything. Just eliminate some of it.
mm,
Um, the not urgent, important, but not urgent. Those are the things you want to be delegating as much as possible. Now, not everyone can delegate, I know, but if you can, those should be delegated because really they're not important. They're urgent, but they're not important.
right.
The two other ones at the top, the urgent and important, and the urgent and not important. What most people end up finding themselves, if you start analyzing, is that you're spending too much time in the urgent and important and the urgent and not important,
Not
the
important.
first two on the left. When really you want to be pushing yourself towards the not important, sorry, the important but not urgent.
No, not
That's where you want to be pushing yourself, because that one, we call it quadrant two.
right.
That one is, if you can spend more time there, you will get less coming into the urgent and important, because you're basically anticipating what might go wrong, what somebody might ask, and you prepare for it. And so a good example is if you've got a presentation to do in, say, 1 month's time, what you would do is you would do the outline next week. Just the outline. You do the outline next week. And the following week, you might start putting together some of the slides. The third week, you might really start developing your story. And then the fourth week, you start, practicing the presentation.
Right.
If you were more on the quadrant one side, which is the urgent and important, you wouldn't do anything for the first 3 weeks. And then you've got 2 days, 48 hours to do this massively important presentation. And now it's just everything has to stop because you've got to do that.
Right.
And it's not a great way to prepare a good presentation. And it leaves you incredibly stressed. But if you moved yourself to quadrant two, the important but not urgent, and start spending, so, okay, the first week I'm going to do the outline. Second week, I'll start preparing the slide design. Third week, develop the story, or the other way around. And then the final week, I'm practicing. You will never, ever feel stressed.
Right.
Because you've spread out the workload and you've given yourself plenty of time to prepare. And that's why it's so important to get into the not urgent but important side. Also, that includes the lifestyle things like health and fitness and family and relationships, because if you don't spend time there and that all falls apart, then it doesn't matter what's going on in the other side, because your health is gone and you have no family or friends left.
Right.
So I always say that's the area that you want to be aspiring to. It's not something you can just go and say, right, Monday, I'm going to spend all my time there. You won't. It's a gradual shift, but it is certainly worth doing.
And actually, Carl sir, you have shared a very insightful thing, but I want to know something, which is what are your advices for people and to confront unexpected disruption in their routine? I mean, how to deal with unexpected disruption in their routine. So what are your insights about?
Well, it's one of the things I always say about when you plan the week, the one thing you cannot plan for are the things that are the unknowns, but the unknowns are going to happen. They happen every single week. They probably, for some, happen every single day. However, if you have got a plan for the week and you do know what your two most important tasks for the day are, you can deal with that emergency, and then you can come back and say, right, I need to get these two things done and then I'm finished for the day. And I found that has been one of the best things. Like yesterday, I was away from the office. I thought I was going to get back at 2:00 in the afternoon. I didn't get back until 5:30. And so I'm going, okay, what are my two things for two today? And I had to work a little bit later last night than I would have liked, but I still made sure those two things were done. So once those emergencies or the unexpected things were dealt with, it was just a matter of looking at my list, saying, right, these two things do need to be done before I go to bed. And so we had a family dinner. and then I went back into the office and I did a couple of hours just to finish that off. So it was no big deal. I woke up this morning not stressed or worried because I'd left all this important stuff over. I had to do a little bit of work last night, which was not ideal, but at least when I started the day, I wasn't stressed out about yesterday. It was done. Everything was finished. Everything was resolved. So it's one of those things, when those unexpected things come up, I think one of the most important things people should do is stop and wait 10 seconds and just think, is it really important? Because a lot of these interruptions and unexpected things are urgent, but when you look at it, you think, I don't really need to be involved in this.
Right.
And just step back. But if you rush into it, you end up doing a lot of stuff that you probably don't need to do. So one of the things I would always say is count to 10. Just stop. Okay, that's not good. 1, 2, 3. Just slow it down a little bit, because you will never be in control of the situation until you slow down and think. That's one of the problems with that digital revolution I mentioned, is we've stopped thinking and we're rushing into stuff when actually just 10, 20 seconds, it's no big deal, but it gives you time to think, actually, what is the best thing I could do with this right now?
Right. Carl sir,
So,
how do you suggest people to manage their work life and their personal life?
well, first you need to know what's important in both areas. Now, throughout life, we're going to go through stages. I remember when I was in my 40s, my career was very important to me because I was building my own business. So I was spending probably a lot more time than is healthy working on my business. But that was a choice I made, and I was supported in that from my wife. In my 20s, it was all about clubbing and having fun and drinking beer and doing all the other things English people do. Because that's what was important to me at that point. It was friends, and it was going out on a weekend and having fun. And so we all go through stages in life. So I think when we sort of say that work-life balance, well, it changes depending on where you are in life. Like if you get married and you have a family, your kids and family are going to become the most important thing. Now, depending on which culture you're in, that happens in different age groups. So I know in like European cultures now, you're raising a family probably in your 30s, no longer in your 20s. It's kind of getting older. Other countries, people still have families when they're young. So it depends on where you are in your life and the culture that you're in as to what stage of life you're in. But I think to have that work-life balance is really just establishing, well, A, what's important to me right now, because that changes through life. And as I say, there will be a point where your career is very important to you, which means that you probably be working more hours than you would like. But it's temporary. It's because you're focused on building your career.
Right.
But at times, once you've got to where you want to be, you've developed processes and systems for doing your work, you've become a master at what you do, you can back off a little bit and spend more time with family and friends. So it's really much up to the individual, I would say, as to what is the most important thing to you right now. That's where you want to be spending time.
And Carl sir, you have said actually a very amazing thing, because work life and personal life, it actually depends upon person's lifestyle, that is he married, or is he a bachelor, or what kind of work hour he has or he is doing and all. So it depends upon his choices and his schedule. Carl sir, what is your advice for students, that how to manage their time? Because students have their colleges, they have their self studies, and many students preparing for government exams. So at the same time they do 5 to 6 things. So what are your advices? Does multitasking work, or it is just a myth?
Multitasking doesn't work. Your brain can't do that. There are certain things that we can do at the same time. We can walk and talk, which is kind of multitasking, but you're using two different parts of the body. The signal your brain is giving to your legs to move is very different from the thinking and that. So that kind of multitasking you can do, but you can't write an email and study for an exam. That's just not going to be possible. You've got to pick one or the other. Now, the thing is with students and preparing for exams, this is kind of becomes quite seasonal because over here in Korea we have the government exams as well.
Mm,
And one of the things that I find is, if you think about it, depending on the individual. Now, me personally, when I was at university, I liked 6 weeks of preparation before exams. For that 6 weeks, I didn't go out with my friends. I
mm,
made sure that I had study time. So I still had to attend lectures, and so the day was kind of more free moving. But evening time after dinner for me was okay. It's time to open the books, and I would study until 10:30 at night.
mm,
It's only for 6 weeks. There's 52 weeks in the year. So I'm perfectly happy. So what do you want to be doing when it comes to exams is saying, okay, this exam is really important to me. How much time am I willing to give it?
right.
Now, if it's critical to your long-term career, same if you want to go into the medical profession,
Mm,
you've got to pass those exams every year. But if
mm,
you want to spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, and study and do this and do that, something's going to break. Now, that long-term thing, which is becoming a doctor or becoming a civil servant, that probably is your long-term goal, and you're really only asking for 6 to 8 weeks a year.
right.
I'll take that. Yeah, I mean, you can tell your friends and family, right? I'm going to be studying every evening and on weekends for the next
Mm,
6 weeks. So bye. um, but then nobody's going to be bothering you because everyone will respect you and they will probably learn from the success that you will have because you've given yourself that unfocused time. The other thing I would say is make sure you're building in enough breaks. There is some scientific evidence to suggest that we not only sleep in 90-minute cycles, we are awake in 90-minute cycles, which means that when you're studying, it's like 90 minutes on and then 20 minutes move. Don't sit
mm,
there and scroll social media. Get
right.
up, walk around, go up some stairs, get outside. Well, it's probably the same in India. Well, I know it will be the same in India. It's very hot outside right now, but just moving around into the building, whatever, but move and then come back to your studies. You will learn a lot more that way than trying to sit down for 4 hours and study. After 90 minutes, the that level of intake that your brain can take becomes almost zero. So you're just wasting time after that. So be a bit smart about those sessions of study.
Right, and actually, a lot of young students will watch this podcast. So you have shared a very practical thing that 6 weeks, as according to your experience, that you used to manage, like I mean, this way. So very practical thing you have shared. Carl, sir, last question I want to ask you that you are a successful YouTuber. So how do you manage time for YouTube? And what are your top advices for educational YouTubers who make videos like podcasts, or they are trying to make motivational content or time management content? So what are your advices for such kind of creators according to you?
Well, if you're going to go into YouTube, for example, it's a long game. Now, Ali Abdel, who's probably one of the world's top YouTubers in the educational field, I've been following Ali for probably almost from the year he started. And in the first 2 or 3 years, he was popular, but 3 or 4 thousand views per video, not high compared to where he's at today.
Right.
And then the pandemic came and it just exploded. So now, he was putting out great content anyway. He got discovered a lot more during the pandemic. It is a long game. If you think you can become a successful YouTuber in 3 to 6 months or even a year, don't go into YouTube. You won't do it
Right.
unless you're already a celebrity. If you're a Bollywood star, yep, you'll be top on YouTube very quickly. But for the most of us, we're not that. We're having to establish a following, and that's the way I look at it myself.
Mm,
Is I've got 140. I can't remember now, but 140,000 subscribers. Those people follow me and they like the way I teach. Not everyone is going to like the way I teach, and that's okay. I'm not going to try and start changing that to pull in more people. Content ideas. The other thing, and the biggest, best advice I can give anyone on YouTube is your first 10 videos are going to be bad. They're going to be very, very, very bad. Do
mm,
not delete them. because in 3 or 4 years' time, you'll look back and you'll see just how much better you are.
Right.
It's fantastic. My first video is still up and it makes me cry every time I watch it because it really is bad, but I will never delete it because it is such a good message to me that say, wow, every year I am improving,
Right.
and means that I never lose sight of what's really important there, which is I'm trying to help people. Plus, I'm learning a skill. I'm learning how to be on YouTube, which is great.
Right. Carl sir, you have shared very practical thing, and actually lot of YouTubers can actually resonate with you personally. Me too. So thank you so much for taking out your precious 30-minute time, and thank you so much for being the guest of Ronak Rangwal podcast. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.